Jake Morrison wiped his sweaty palms on his dark blue suit. He stood in the main meeting room of Harmony Point Space Station. Today was the most important day of his life. It was also the most important day for all of humanity. The room was huge and round. Large windows showed the stars outside. In the center sat a long table made of smooth metal. On one side were 5 chairs for the human team. On the other side were 5 strange seats that looked like crystal formations. Jake was 32 years old and had been a diplomat for 8 years. He had talked to many different people from many different countries on Earth. But today was different. Today he would talk to aliens for the first time in human history. Lisa Chen sat next to Jake. She was his helper and friend. She carried a small computer that could translate languages. Next to her sat Dr. Amy Foster, who studied alien languages. Captain Roy Henderson wore his military uniform and watched everything carefully. Professor Ben Carter took notes about everything. He saw. Jake looked at his watch. The alien delegation would arrive in 5 minutes. His heart beat fast in his chest. He had practiced this moment hundreds of times, but nothing could prepare him for meeting real aliens. The door at the far end of the room opened with a soft sound. Jake stood up quickly. His team stood up too. What walked through that door took his breath away. The aliens looked like they were made of living crystal. They were tall, about 7 feet high. Their bodies were see-through but also solid. Light seemed to dance inside them. They had no hair or clothes. Instead, their crystal skin changed colors as they moved. The alien in front was clearly their leader. She was beautiful in a way Jake had never seen before. Her crystal body was shaped like a human woman but made of something that looked like clear diamond. Colors flowed through her like water: blue, green, and silver. When she walked, small lights sparkled inside her crystal form. Jake had read all the files about these aliens. They were called the Velthari. They came from an empire that controlled many planets. This leader was Ambassador Zixathara. She was one of the most important people in their government. The aliens moved to their seats. When they sat down, their crystal bodies made soft, musical sounds. Ambassador Zixathara's colors changed to a calm blue. She looked at Jake with eyes that seemed to hold tiny stars. "Greetings, humans of Earth," she said. Her voice sounded like singing crystal. The computer Lisa held translated her words into English. "I am Ambassador Zixathara of the Velthari Empire. We come in peace to speak with your kind." Jake stepped forward and bowed slightly. "Welcome to Harmony Point, Ambassador. I am Jake Morrison, speaking for all humans. We are honored to meet you and your people." The formal talks began. They spoke about trade between their peoples. The Velthari had technology that could help humans travel faster between stars. Humans had art and music that the aliens found interesting. They also talked about which parts of space each group would control. Jake found himself watching Ambassador Zixathara as she spoke. She was incredibly smart. When the other aliens disagreed with each other, she found ways to make them agree. Her crystal form would change colors when she thought hard about problems. Blue when she was calm, green when she was thinking, silver when she was excited about an idea. After 2 hours of talking, Ambassador Zixathara called for a break. "We will rest for 30 minutes, she announced. The formal talk stopped. Everyone relaxed in their chairs. Jake had been taught to be friendly during breaks. It helped build trust between different groups. He walked over to where Ambassador Zixathara stood looking out the window at the stars. "Ambassador," Jake said with a warm smile, "I hope you don't mind me saying this, but I find your people's natural glow quite attractive. The way your crystal form catches the light is really beautiful." Jake meant it as a simple compliment. On Earth, telling someone they looked nice was just being polite. He wanted to be friendly and show respect for her appearance, but something went terribly wrong. Ambassador Zixathara's crystal body suddenly turned a deep purple color. She became completely still, like a statue. Her eyes, which had been friendly, before now looked shocked and afraid. The other Velthari delegates made sharp, high sounds that hurt Jake's ears. They stood up quickly from their seats. Their crystal bodies flashed red and orange, colors that seemed angry and upset. Ambassador Zixathara turned to look at Jake. Her purple color got even darker. I must, she started to say, but could not finish. She looked around at her own people who were all staring at her and making those sharp sounds. "Excuse me," she said quickly. "I must return to my quarters immediately." She moved toward the door very fast. The other aliens followed her, all making those angry crystal sounds. In less than a minute, Jake was alone with his human team. The room felt cold and empty without the aliens' soft light. Lisa Chen ran up to Jake. "What just happened?" she asked. "What did you say to her?" Jake felt confused and worried. "I just told her that her people look attractive. I said they were beautiful. That's a compliment on Earth, right?" Dr. Foster was already working on her computer, trying to contact the alien delegation. "They're not answering our calls," she said. "Something is very wrong." Captain Henderson spoke into his radio. "This is Henderson. We may have a diplomatic problem. The alien delegation has left the meeting and won't talk to us." Jake sat down, heavily in his chair. He had been a diplomat for years. He knew how to talk to people without making them angry. But somehow, with just one sentence, he had ruined the most important meeting in human history. "I was just being nice," Jake said, quietly. How could saying someone is beautiful be wrong? Professor Carter was writing notes as fast as he could. "We need to understand their culture better," he said. "Maybe what seems normal to us means something very different to them." Outside the window, Jake could see the Velthari ships. They were long and crystal-like, just like their people. For a moment he worried that the ships might leave. What if the aliens decided never to talk to humans again? What if his one comment had destroyed the chance for peace between their peoples? Lisa Chen put her hand on Jake's shoulder. "We'll figure this out," she said. "There has to be a way to fix this." But as Jake watched the alien ships floating in space, he wondered if some mistakes were too big to fix. He had wanted to make friends with the aliens. Instead, he might have made them enemies with just 7 words. The future of humanity might depend on what happened next. 3 hours had passed since the Velthari delegation left the meeting room. Jake Morrison sat at his desk staring at a blank computer screen. He had tried to write his report 5 times, but the words would not come. Captain Roy Henderson burst through the door of Jake's small office. His face was red and he looked very worried. "We have a big problem," he said. "The Velthari fleet commander just sent us a message. They want you removed from the talks immediately." Jake's stomach felt sick. "What exactly did they say?" Henderson read from a small tablet. "They said the human called Jake Morrison has committed a serious offense against Ambassador Zixathara. He must be sent away from this station at once. If he remains, all talks between our peoples will end forever." Lisa Chen walked into the office carrying her translation computer. She had been working with Dr. Amy Foster for hours, trying to understand what went wrong. "It's worse than we thought," she said. Dr. Foster finally got through to one of their junior diplomats. "What you said wasn't just rude, Jake. It was like proposing marriage to the ambassador in front of everyone." Jake's eyes went wide. "Marriage? I just said she was attractive." Dr. Foster came in behind Lisa. She looked tired and confused. "Their culture is very different from ours," she explained. "In Velthari society, commenting on someone's physical appearance is only done between family members or romantic partners. When you called Ambassador Zixathara attractive, you basically announced to everyone that you wanted to marry her." Jake put his head in his hands. "This is a nightmare. How was I supposed to know that?" "It gets worse," Dr. Foster continued. "The junior diplomat told me that Ambassador Zixathara comes from what they call a lower crystal caste. In their society, the way you look determines your place in life. People with certain crystal formations are considered more important than others." Captain Henderson frowned. "What does that mean exactly?" Dr. Foster sat down and opened her computer. "From what I understand, the Velthari have a system where your crystal color and shape decides everything about your life. If you have the right kind of crystal body, You can be a leader or scientist. If you have the wrong kind, you can only do simple jobs. Lisa Chen looked shocked. That's terrible. So they judge people just by how they look? Exactly, Dr. Foster said. Ambassador Zixathera was able to become a diplomat because she's incredibly smart. But many Velthari think she shouldn't have such an important job because of her crystal formation. When Jake called her attractive, it made everything worse. Jake looked up from his hands. How did it make things worse? The conservative Velthari are saying that if even an alien thinks she's attractive, then she must have been using her looks to get her job instead of her intelligence. They're calling for her to resign. Henderson's radio crackled to life. A voice said, "Captain, we're getting reports from our spy satellites. The Velthari fleet is moving into attack formation." Jake stood up quickly. Attack formation? Are they going to start a war because I gave someone a compliment? Henderson spoke into his radio. All stations, this is Henderson. Prepare for possible hostile action. Do not fire unless fired upon. He looked at Jake. We need to fix this fast, or a lot of people are going to die. Dr. Foster's computer beeped with a new message. She read it quickly, and her face went pale. Oh no. The news of what happened is spreading to other Velthari worlds. There are reports of protests on at least 6 planets. What kind of protests? Lisa asked. 2 different kinds, Dr. Foster said. On some worlds, the older Velthari are protesting against Ambassador Zixathera. They want her punished for accepting Jake's comment. But on other worlds, younger Velthari are protesting against their caste system. They're asking why appearance should matter more than intelligence. Jake felt like the room was spinning. You mean my one comment started protests across an entire alien empire? It looks that way, Dr. Foster said. The young Velthari are saying that if humans don't judge people by their looks, maybe they shouldn't either. Some of them are refusing to go to their assigned jobs. Others are demanding the right to choose their own careers. Henderson's radio crackled again. Captain, the Velthari Emperor's personal ship just entered the system. It will arrive at the station in 6 hours. Everyone in the room went quiet. The Velthari Emperor was the most powerful being in their empire. He ruled over billions of crystal people across dozens of worlds. If he was coming personally, it meant the situation was incredibly serious. What do we do now? Lisa asked quietly. Jake walked to the window and looked out at the Velthari fleet. The crystal ships were beautiful, but also scary. Each one could destroy a human city in seconds. We need to understand their culture better, he said. Dr. Foster, can you find out more about their caste system? I'll try, she said. But the Velthari don't like talking about it with outsiders. Henderson checked his tablet. I'm getting reports from Earth. The news about what happened has reached home. Some people are saying you made a terrible mistake, Jake. Others are saying the aliens are being unreasonable. Jake turned away from the window. What matters is what happens next. If we can't fix this, it won't matter what people on Earth think. There won't be any future talks between humans and Velthari. Dr. Foster looked up from her computer. I found something interesting. The junior diplomat told me that Ambassador Zixathera locked herself in her quarters after the meeting. She won't talk to anyone, not even her own people. She's probably terrified, Lisa said. Her own people are turning against her because of what Jake said. Jake felt a heavy weight in his chest. He had wanted to be friendly to Ambassador Zixathera. Instead, he had made her life much harder. Is there any way I can apologize to her? The Velthari won't let you near her, Henderson said. They've put guards around her quarters. Dr. Foster's computer beeped again. She read the new message and her eyes went wide. This is unbelievable. The protests on Velthari worlds are getting bigger. On one planet, thousands of lower caste Velthari have stopped working. They're demanding equal rights. Equal rights? Jake asked. The right to choose their own jobs, to marry whoever they want, to be judged by their actions instead of their appearance, Dr. Foster explained. Your comment has started a revolution, Jake. Henderson's face was grim. A revolution that could turn into a civil war. And if the Velthari Empire breaks apart, they might blame us for starting it. Jake sat down heavily in his chair. When he woke up that morning, He had been excited about making history. He was going to be the first human to successfully negotiate with an alien species. Instead, he might be the person who started the first war between humans and aliens. "There has to be something we can do," he said. "Some way to make this right." "Lisa," Chen looked at him with sad eyes. "Maybe we should just send you home, Jake. If that's what they want, maybe it would end the crisis." Jake shook his head. "If I leave, it sends the message that what I said was wrong. But I don't think it was wrong. I think their caste system is wrong." Dr. Foster looked surprised. "You want to challenge their entire social system?" "Not challenge," Jake said slowly. "But maybe it's time someone asked them why appearance should determine a person's worth. Maybe that's what this is really about." Henderson's radio crackled one more time. "Captain, we have an incoming message from the Velthari Emperor's ship. He wants to speak with Jake Morrison personally." Jake's mouth went dry. In a few hours, he would have to face the most powerful alien in the galaxy and explain why he had caused so much trouble with 7 simple words. Jake Morrison stood in the communications room of Harmony Point Station. On the big screen in front of him was a live feed from Earth. Admiral Patricia Wells, the head of Earth Space Forces, looked very serious. "Morrison," Admiral Wells said, "what you've done has created the biggest crisis in human history. Half the people on Earth want you court-martialed. The other half think you're a hero for standing up to alien prejudice." Jake felt tired. He had not slept in 18 hours. "Admiral, I was just trying to be polite. I had no idea that complimenting someone's appearance would cause all this trouble." "Well, it has," Admiral Wells replied. "The Velthari Emperor will arrive in 2 hours. You need to fix this, Morrison, or we might be looking at our first interstellar war." The screen went dark. Jake rubbed his eyes and walked back to the main conference room. His team was waiting for him. Dr. Amy Foster had spent the night studying everything she could find about Velthari culture. Professor Ben Carter had been analyzing their social structure. Lisa Chen had been trying to keep track of all the protests happening across Velthari space. "What did you find out?" Jake asked as he sat down. Dr. Foster opened her computer. "The situation is worse than we thought. The Velthari caste system isn't just about jobs. It controls everything in their society." She showed Jake pictures on her computer screen. "Look at this. These are different types of Velthari crystal formations. The ones with clear, bright crystals are the upper caste. They get to be leaders, scientists, and artists. The ones with cloudy or dark crystals are the lower caste. They can only do manual labor or serve the upper caste." Jake studied the pictures. "Ambassador Zixithera has clear crystals. Why is she considered lower caste?" "Because her crystal formation is angular instead of smooth," Professor Carter explained. "In their society, smooth, curved crystals are considered more beautiful than angular ones. Even though her crystals are clear and bright, the shape makes her lower caste." Lisa Chen looked up from her tablet. "I've been reading reports from the protests. On 12 different Velthari worlds, lower caste citizens are refusing to work. They're saying that if humans can judge people by their actions instead of their looks, then Velthari should too." Jake walked to the window and looked out at the stars. "So my comment didn't just embarrass Ambassador Zixithera, it made people question their entire way of life." "Exactly," Dr. Foster said. "For thousands of years, the Velthari have accepted that crystal formation determines worth. But when an alien said that an angular crystal person was attractive, it made them wonder if their system was wrong." Captain Henderson entered the room carrying a stack of reports. "I've got updates from our intelligence sources. The protests are spreading. Some Velthari military units are split. The upper caste officers want to stop the protests, but the lower caste soldiers are joining them." Jake turned away from the window. "What about Ambassador Zixithera? Is she still locked in her quarters?" "Yes," Henderson said. "But we intercepted some communications between the Velthari ships. The conservative faction wants her arrested for encouraging alien interference in Velthari culture. The progressive faction wants her protected as a symbol of reform." Professor Carter looked worried. "If their empire splits into civil war, they'll blame humanity for starting it." The Emperor might decide that the only way to unite his people is to give them a common enemy. Us. Jake sat down and put his head in his hands. Maybe I should just apologize and leave. If that's what it takes to prevent a war. But that would be giving in to their prejudice, Lisa Chen said. You'd be saying that it was wrong to call someone attractive just because of how their society judges appearance. Dr. Foster nodded. Lisa's right. If you apologize, you're basically saying that the Velthari caste system is correct. That some people are worth more than others based on how they look. Jake looked around at his team. These people had worked with him for years. They knew him well. What do you think I should do? Captain Henderson spoke first. As a military officer, my job is to prevent war. If apologizing and leaving would do that, I'd say do it. But, Henderson continued, I've been thinking about what Dr. Foster told us about their system. If the Velthari judge people by appearance, what happens when they meet other alien species? Will they create the same kind of prejudice across the galaxy? Professor Carter leaned forward. That's a good point. If we accept their caste system now, we're setting a precedent. We're saying that it's okay for advanced civilizations to treat people differently based on how they look. Dr. Foster pulled up more information on her computer. I've been studying human history too. We had similar problems on Earth. For centuries, people were treated differently because of their skin color, their nationality, or their physical features. It took us a long time to learn that judging people by appearance was wrong. Jake thought about his own life. He had grown up in a small town where people came from many different backgrounds. His best friend in school had been Carlos Martinez, whose family came from Mexico. His first girlfriend had been an exchange student from Kenya. His current girlfriend back on Earth was Dr. Rachel Kim, a scientist whose grandparents came from Korea. You're right, Jake said slowly. On Earth, we learned that diversity makes us stronger. People from different backgrounds bring different ideas and skills. If we judge everyone by the same standard of appearance, we lose all that diversity. Lisa Chen smiled. So, what are you going to say to the Emperor? Jake stood up and walked to the window again. The Velthari Emperor's ship was now visible as a bright point of light approaching the station. It was huge, bigger than any human ship ever built. When Jake was a child, he had dreamed of meeting aliens. He had imagined that they would be wise and peaceful. He never thought that first contact would involve challenging an entire civilization's way of thinking. I'm going to tell him the truth, Jake said. I'm going to explain why I called Ambassador Zixthera attractive, and why I think that was the right thing to do. Captain Henderson looked nervous. That's a big risk, Jake. If you make the Emperor angry, he could order an attack on this station. Maybe, Jake agreed. But if I apologize for treating someone with respect, I'm betraying everything humanity stands for. I'd rather take the risk of war than give up our principles. Dr. Foster's computer beeped with an urgent message. She read it quickly and her face went pale. Jake, you need to see this. We just got a message from one of the junior Velthari diplomats. He says that Ambassador Zixthera has requested to speak with you. The guards won't let me near her quarters, Jake said. She's not in her quarters anymore, Dr. Foster replied. She's in the station's meeting room. She's waiting for you. Jake's heart started beating faster. Why does she want to see me? Lisa Chen checked her tablet. The message says she has something important to tell you before the Emperor arrives. Something about what your comment really meant to her. Jake looked around at his team one more time. Whatever happens next, I want you all to know that I'm proud to have worked with you. If this goes badly, make sure Earth knows that we tried to do the right thing. Professor Carter smiled. Don't talk like this is goodbye, Jake. You might be surprised by what Ambassador Zixthera has to say. Jake straightened his tie and walked toward the door. In 1 hour, the Velthari Emperor would arrive. Before then, Jake would finally learn what his innocent compliment had really meant to the alien woman who had become the center of an interstellar crisis. As he walked down the hallway toward the meeting room, Jake thought about all the ways this day could end. War between species. The collapse of the Velthari Empire. His own imprisonment or death. But he also thought about the possibility that something good might come from all this chaos. Maybe, just maybe, his words had started something that would make the galaxy a better place for everyone. Jake Morrison walked slowly toward the meeting room. His hands were shaking slightly. Through the clear doors, he could see Ambassador Zixathera sitting alone at the large table. Her crystal body was glowing with soft blue and silver light. When Jake entered the room, Ambassador Zixathera looked up at him. Her crystalline face was hard to read, but Jake thought he saw sadness in her star-like eyes. "Ambassador," Jake said quietly, "I'm sorry for the trouble I've caused you." Zixathera's colors shifted to a pale green. "Please sit down, Jake Morrison. We need to talk before Emperor Kethavar arrives." Jake sat across from her, just like they had during the negotiations. But everything felt different now. The room seemed colder and there was tension in the air. "I want to tell you something," Zixathera said. "When you called me attractive, you did something that no one has ever done before." "I made a terrible mistake," Jake said. "I didn't understand your culture." "No," Zixathera replied, her colors shifting to warm gold. "You gave me hope." Jake looked confused. "Hope? But you seem so upset. You left the room immediately." Zixathera's crystal body flickered with different colors as she spoke. "I was upset, but not for the reason you think. I was upset because in my entire life no one had ever said I was attractive. In our society, people with angular crystals like mine are considered ugly. We are told from birth that we are less valuable than those with smooth, curved crystals." Jake felt a pain in his chest. "That's terrible. You're clearly intelligent and capable. Why should the shape of your crystals matter?" "That is exactly what I have been asking myself," Zixathera said. "When you, an alien who knows nothing of our caste system, looked at me and saw beauty, it made me realize how wrong our society might be." She stood up and walked to the window. "I have spent my whole life trying to prove that I was worthy despite my appearance. I studied harder than anyone else. I worked longer hours. I made myself perfect in every way except the one that mattered to my people, the way I looked." Jake joined her at the window. "On Earth, we learned that judging people by appearance is wrong. It took us centuries to figure that out, and we're still not perfect. But we try to value people for their character and abilities." "I know," Zixathera said. "That is why your words meant so much to me. For the first time in my life, someone saw me as beautiful just as I am." The door to the meeting room opened. Captain Henderson entered, followed by Jake's team and several Velthari delegates. Jake could see that the Velthari were split into two groups. Some had their crystals glowing with angry red light. Others glowed with calm blue and green. "The Emperor's ship has docked," Captain Henderson announced. "He will be here in 10 minutes. One of the red glowing Velthari stepped forward. "Ambassador Zixathera, you must apologize to Emperor Kethavar for this embarrassment. The humans' comment was inappropriate, and you should have corrected him immediately." But a blue glowing Velthari disagreed. "Why should she apologize for being treated with respect? Perhaps it is our old ways that need correcting." The two groups of Velthari began making sharp musical sounds at each other. Jake could tell they were arguing even though he couldn't understand their language. Zixathera held up her hand for silence. "Enough," she said firmly. "I have made my decision. When Emperor Kethavar arrives, I will support Jake Morrison's right to speak the truth about our caste system." The red glowing Velthari looked shocked. "You would side with an alien against your own people?" "I am siding with justice," Zixathera replied. "Jake Morrison treated me with dignity and respect. If that is wrong in our society, then our society needs to change." Dr. Foster checked her computer. "The Emperor is on his way to this room, right now." Jake felt his heart pounding. Everything he said in the next few minutes could determine the future of human-alien relations. He looked at Ambassador Zixathera, who was now glowing with determination. "Whatever happens," Jake said to her, "I want you to know that I meant what I said. You are attractive, not just because of how you look, but because of who you are as a person." The doors to the meeting room opened with a loud sound. Emperor Kethavar entered, and Jake immediately understood why he ruled an empire. The Emperor was enormous, nearly 8 feet tall. His crystal body was perfectly smooth and curved, glowing with brilliant white light. Behind him walked 6 guards, all with the same perfect crystal formations. Everyone in the room bowed except Jake. He had been told that humans should bow to the Emperor, but something made him stay standing. If he was going to defend his principles, he would do it as an equal. Emperor Kethvar's light dimmed slightly when he saw Jake standing. "So," the Emperor said in a voice like ringing bells, "you are the human who has caused so much trouble in my empire." "Your Majesty," Jake said respectfully but firmly, "I am Jake Morrison. I represent humanity in these negotiations." "You represent a species that interferes in the affairs of others," the Emperor replied coldly. "Your comment to Ambassador Zixithara has started riots on a dozen worlds." Jake took a deep breath. "Your Majesty, I called Ambassador Zixithara attractive because she is attractive. In human culture, recognizing someone's beauty is a sign of respect, not an insult." The red-glowing Velthari delegate stepped forward. "Emperor, this human violated our most sacred customs. He must be punished." But Ambassador Zixithara also stepped forward. "Emperor Kethvar, I request permission to speak." The Emperor's light flickered with surprise. "Very well, Ambassador." Zixithara's colors shifted to brilliant gold as she spoke. "Your Majesty, I have served our empire faithfully for 15 years. I have negotiated treaties, solved disputes, and brought honor to our people. But in all that time, I have been told that I am less valuable than others because of my crystal formation." She gestured toward Jake. "This human saw me and recognized my worth without knowing anything about our caste system. He judged me by my abilities and my character, not by whether my crystals are smooth or angular." The Emperor's light grew brighter. "Our caste system has maintained order for thousands of years, Ambassador. But at what cost?" Zixithara asked. "How many brilliant minds have been wasted because they had the wrong crystal shape? How many potential leaders have been forced into servitude because they were born different?" Jake saw his opportunity. "Your Majesty, on Earth we once had similar systems. We judged people by their skin color, their family background, their physical features. But we learned that when we judge people by their character instead of their appearance, our whole civilization becomes stronger." Emperor Kethvar was quiet for a long moment. His light pulsed slowly as he thought. "You are asking me to overturn the foundation of our society based on one alien's opinion. I'm asking you to consider that maybe the foundation was wrong to begin with," Jake replied. "Your empire spans many worlds with billions of people. Imagine how much stronger you could be if you valued all of them equally." The blue-glowing Velthari delegates began making soft, harmonious sounds. Jake realized they were agreeing with him, but the red-glowing ones made harsh, angry sounds. Emperor Kethvar looked around the room at his divided people, then at Jake, and Ambassador Zixithara. "These are dangerous ideas you speak, human. Change is not easy for a civilization as old as ours." "The best changes never are," Jake said, "but they're usually worth it." The Emperor's light dimmed to almost nothing as he considered Jake's words. The future of 2 civilizations hung in the balance. Emperor Kethvar stood in the center of the meeting room for what felt like hours, though it was only minutes. His brilliant white light pulsed slowly as he thought about Jake's words. The room was completely silent, except for the soft humming of the space station's engines. Finally, the Emperor spoke. "Human Jake Morrison, you have created chaos in my empire with your words. Planets are in revolt. My people are divided. Some call for your death. Others call for revolution." Jake's mouth felt dry, but he stood straight. "Your Majesty, I only spoke the truth as I see it." "Truth," the Emperor repeated, his light flickering. "What is truth?" For 3,000 years, the Velthari have believed that crystal formation determines worth. Are you saying that 3,000 years of tradition is wrong? Ambassador Zixithara stepped forward, her angular crystals glowing with courage. "Your Majesty, may I tell you about my life?" The Emperor's light dimmed slightly. "Speak." "I was born in the lower districts of Velthar Prime," Zixithara began. My parents worked in the crystal mines. Because of my angular formation, I was assigned to mining work when I reached adult age. But I wanted to learn. I studied in secret, reading stolen books and learning languages. She paused, her colors shifting to deep blue. When the Diplomatic Academy had a test for new students, I took it illegally. I scored higher than any upper caste applicant in 50 years. But I was almost rejected anyway because of how I looked. The red-glowing Velthari delegate interrupted. The Academy made an exception for your exceptional intelligence. They made an exception, Zixthera agreed. But why should intelligence need an exception? Why shouldn't it be the rule? Emperor Kethvar's light grew brighter. Continue your story. I worked twice as hard as any upper caste student. I had to prove myself every day. Even when I became an ambassador, some people said I only got the job because the emperor wanted to look progressive. No one ever said I got the job because I was the best choice. Zixthera turned to look at Jake. Until yesterday, for the first time in my life, someone looked at me and saw value without knowing my caste. That human saw me as beautiful, intelligent, and worthy of respect. Not despite my appearance, but including my appearance. Dr. Foster's computer beeped softly. She looked at the screen, and her eyes widened. Your Majesty, we're getting reports from across Velthari space. The protests are spreading, but they're becoming peaceful. Emperor Kethvar turned his attention to Dr. Foster. Explain. Young Velthari on 17 worlds have started what they're calling equality demonstrations. They're not destroying anything or fighting. They're just refusing to be separated by caste. Upper caste and lower caste Velthari are working together, eating together, and learning together. Captain Henderson checked his own reports. Our intelligence sources confirm this. The movement is growing, but it's nonviolent. They're calling themselves the New Crystal Alliance. Jake felt a spark of hope. They're not rebelling against your authority, Your Majesty. They're asking for the chance to prove their worth through their actions. Emperor Kethvar walked to the large window and looked out at his fleet. The crystal ships sparkled like jewels against the black of space. In 3,000 years, no one has challenged our ways like this, but perhaps that is because no one has ever shown us a different way. He turned back to face the room. Human Jake Morrison, I want to understand your species better. Show me how humans organize their society. Jake was surprised by the request. Here on the station? Yes. Show me how humans work together without judging by appearance. Jake looked at his team. Lisa Chen nodded encouragingly. Your Majesty, this station has humans from many different backgrounds. Would you like to meet some of them? For the next hour, Jake led Emperor Kethvar on a tour of Harmony Point Station. They visited the engineering section, where Chief Engineer Maria Santos was repairing a damaged power system. Maria was a short woman with graying hair and oil stains on her uniform, but she knew more about space station systems than anyone in human space. On Earth, Jake explained, Maria would have been told she couldn't be an engineer because she was a woman, but we learned that intelligence and skill have nothing to do with gender. Now she's one of our best engineers. They visited the medical bay where Dr. Alex Johnson was treating a sick crew member. Dr. Johnson's grandfather had been enslaved because of his dark skin, but now Alex saved lives and commanded respect throughout the station. In the communications center, they met Lieutenant Kevin Park, whose parents had immigrated to Earth from a war-torn planet. Despite facing prejudice as a child, Kevin had become one of the best communications officers in the Earth fleet. Emperor Kethvar observed everything carefully. He watched humans of different appearances working together as equals. He saw Maria giving orders to male engineers without anyone questioning her authority. He watched Dr. Johnson making life-and-death decisions while other humans trusted him completely. He observed Lieutenant Park coordinating with Earth's command without anyone caring about his family's background. Your people are very different from each other, the Emperor observed. Yes, Jake agreed. And that makes us stronger. Maria thinks about problems differently than Alex or Kevin. When we combine all their different perspectives, we find better solutions. They returned to the meeting room, where the Velthari delegates were still waiting. Some of the red glowing ones had changed to blue and green during the Emperor's absence. Emperor Kethvar stood before his people. I have seen how humans organize their society. They judge individuals by their actions and abilities, not by their appearance. And their civilization is strong because of this diversity, not despite it. He paused, his light growing brighter. Perhaps it is time for the Velthari Empire to change. The remaining red glowing delegate protested. Your Majesty, our traditions have kept order for millennia. Our traditions have also wasted countless minds and talents, the Emperor replied firmly. How many potential scientists, artists, and leaders have we lost because they had the wrong crystal formation? Emperor Kethvar turned to Ambassador Zixthera. Ambassador, I am promoting you to Senior Cultural Advisor. Your first assignment is to develop a plan for reforming our caste system. Zixthera's crystal body blazed with joy, cycling through every color in the spectrum. Your Majesty, I am honored. The Emperor then looked at Jake. Human Jake Morrison, when you called Ambassador Zixthera attractive, you did something that seemed simple but was actually revolutionary. You saw worth where our society saw only deficiency. Jake felt relief washing over him. Your Majesty, I'm grateful that something good came from the misunderstanding. There was no misunderstanding, Emperor Kethvar said. You spoke truth. Ambassador Zixthera is attractive, in her intelligence, her courage, her dedication, and yes, in her unique crystal formation. Our society was wrong to teach her otherwise. Dr. Foster's computer chimed with an urgent message. Your Majesty, the reports from your worlds are very positive. The new Crystal Alliance is organizing peaceful reform movements. They're requesting your support for gradual changes to the caste system. Emperor Kethavar's light pulsed with what Jake now recognized as satisfaction. Send word to all Velthari worlds. The Empire will begin immediate reforms. From now on, positions will be awarded based on ability and character, not crystal formation. 6 months later, Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of the first joint human Velthari research station. Through the windows, he could see ships from both species working together on scientific projects. Ambassador Zixthera, now Senior Cultural Advisor Zixthera, joined him at the window. Her crystal formation sparkled with happiness. The reforms are going well, she reported. 17 worlds have already implemented the new system. Lower caste Velthari are entering universities, joining the military as officers, and taking leadership positions. Any problems? Jake asked. Some resistance from traditionalists, but less than we expected. It turns out that many upper caste Velthari also felt trapped by the old system. They're relieved to be judged by their actions rather than their appearance. Jake smiled. And how are you doing personally? Zixthera's colors shifted to warm gold. For the first time in my life, I feel truly beautiful. Not because my crystals have changed, but because I finally see myself the way you saw me that first day, as worthy of respect and admiration just as I am. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching humans and Velthari work side by side among the stars. Jake thought about how one simple compliment had changed the course of history. He had called an alien woman attractive and she couldn't handle it. Not because it was wrong, but because it was the first time anyone had ever made her feel truly valued. Sometimes the most important revolutions begin with the smallest acts of kindness. As Jake watched a young lower caste Velthari giving orders to a mixed crew of humans and upper caste aliens, he realized that the future was going to be very different from the past. And that was exactly how it should be.